Excited easily.
Yeah.
We want to have George Bamu come up and speak to provide a little context around, Cameroon, what's going on there, and specifically from someone who's there. So, George, please.
Would you mind if we get the lights just for a second? When I'm done, then we can turn it back on. I just want to make sure that you all can see me. I brought a whole bunch of information here, so maybe going into my folder from time to time to pull out some stuff. I'm not sure we're going to have time to do that today, but first of all, let me say how incredibly proud I am of this two gentlemen, Taylor and Brendan, for doing this. Is fantastic. This is fantastic. Can we all just give them a big round of applause? Because I run a non-profit organization in Aurora. That organization is called the Africa Agenda, and it's been in existence for 5 years now. It's awfully difficult to run a non-profit to even start it, to even think about it. So if you're not a serious person, very, very serious, you wouldn't even think about it. And I was reading as I was coming here, those guys, they invited me and said, hey, we started this thing, can you be on the board of the organization? I jumped. I jumped because here's what it's saying here. I'm going to say this, there's a couple of things that I'm going to say, and I just have too much stuff boiling in my brains. I don't know, in 5 minutes, I'm going to be able to say all of that in 5 minutes. The guys gave me 5 minutes, so I'm going to do my very best to chew on all that information in 5 minutes. I was coming here and I was reading, Preparing to Do Good. This is some documentation I pulled from the California Management Assistant Partner. They're talking about a nonprofit organization. What they say is working for the public good is serious business. So what those guys are doing is serious business. I bet you when this thing gains momentum, there's people in the community all over the world that are going to be coming after them. Why? Because they're putting out critical information. And that information is not just needed here in the United States, it's needed all over the world, in Cameroon, all over the world. So that's just what I wanted to say about your work. You guys, thank you. And this is incredible stuff, and I think you guys are doing really, really well. Thank you for doing this. Second thing, let me talk about the Africa Agenda. I am in the news business, okay? A lot of people, usually I don't talk about the journalistic work that I do, because sometimes a lot of people get confused about it, but I'm in the business of journalism. I also do information technology. All of this has to do with information. In this day and age of the internet, information is very critical. When you put out information, sometimes information, if it's good, or information that criticizes, tries to hold people accountable, it bites. It bites. People will come after you. Be it governments, be it individuals, be it other journalists, people will come after you. Now, I'm saying the information business because essentially what these guys are doing with the documentary is they have gone out to Cameroon, collected information, documented that information, and now they're disseminating that information. There's people in here which I'm sure there's some people who are going to like it, there's some people who are going to hate that information that is going to be put out. But what they're doing essentially is a journalistic work, information that they're putting out about a country called Cameroon. I'll be speaking about Cameroon in just a second. We have some Camerooners in here. We have Andy McKean, who is a former Peace Corps volunteer to Cameroon. And there's my friend Clement from Ghana. We have the Africa Agenda is here. I'm here. Brandon, everybody's here. Now, like I said, this is pretty heavy information which we can't chew on for 5 minutes. But let me just pick on number one. Professor of journalism at the McGill School of Journalism came up with a quote a few years ago, said, a democratic society in the digital age needs people who understand both journalism and technology. So essentially these guys are using information technology and they're using journalism to put together information and then disseminate that information through this organization. Also, because I'm in the business of journalism, there's a Bernard Cohen anticipated said, the press may not be successful much of the time in telling you what to think. But what the press does is they can have you think about information. The information that's out there, they have you think. You may not like that information, but it gets you thinking. So we're here, essentially, this information is going to make us think about the country Cameroon. And what is Cameroon? 18 million citizens of Cameroon, a bilingual country, English and French. I like to call it, when I look at the continent of Africa, I like to call it a continent half full. It's like the concept or the metaphor of the glass half full. You have, somebody's going to look at it and say it's half empty, another person says half full. Essentially, I put Cameroon in the category of a country half full. Why? Because there are negatives and there are positives about the country. So we're going to be talking about some pretty interesting stuff here. I think you put it quite clearly. It's not everything about the country that is bad. There are some bad things which essentially we have a responsibility to try to fix. There's some bad things, but also there are some good things. We're being optimistic when we're trying to fix those problems. Essentially, that's what this whole endeavor is all about. So let me talk about, we're talking about information. Let me tell you a little bit about my organization as a niche information organization. We go out there, do some research, organize events, try to get the community, try to get leaders, try to get students to think about Africa in new ways. Not just the information that is out there that CNN puts out, not just the information MSNBC or Fox or some newspaper puts out about Africa, but how do you put that information within context and put some perspective in it. What we did last year in 2009 as a member of the Africa organization, we had a story in the Denver Post, we had one in the Aurora Sentinel, we had one in the Greeley Tribune, we had 8 television appearances, we had about 6 or 10 major events around the Denver metro area. And why are we doing all of that? It's because we want to engage communities. We want to engage audiences like we are doing today to start to think about Africa. Yes, there are problems. What are you going to do about those problems? Are you going to work to fix those problems? Or are you just going to sit back and listen to the media give you the wrong information? That is the question that I'm asking here today. We're just going to sit and have the media give us some of it is not all wrong information, so to speak, but are they going to put it into context and perspective so you understand it? Are they going to put it into context so you understand? So essentially, I mean, I could talk about this for on and on and on, but here's what I want to leave you with. Now, non-profit mission. The work that this gentleman is doing is serious business, but it takes money. See, because essentially people think because it's a non-profit endeavor, they're gonna stop. No, you guys are not gonna stop. Okay, the non-profit organization that stopped because people, well, it's a charity. Well, you're not supposed to make profit. No, non-profit organizations depend on your money to be able to succeed, to go out and do the work that's out. Let me read another thing that's stated right here in this little piece that I picked up today. It says, non-profit organizations provide medical care, education at the preschool, through university museums, exhibits, art performance, health and athletic facilities, programs and care, workforce training, and on and on. Now, 8% of the gross domestic product of the United States comes through non-profit organizations. The non-profit world employs 10% of the workforce and generates approximately $750 billion in annual revenue. That's the work that non-profit organizations do around the world. Essentially, you guys are just going to jump into that bandwagon of non-profit. You're doing work that is not going to be visible on television all the time. Not everybody's going to see the work that we're doing here today, but it's going on. And I think this is a big contribution to development back in Cameroon. The critical thing that's going to happen next year, they have presidential elections in 2011. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And now, what am I as a Cameroonian doing to be able to follow that democratic process back in Cameroon? What are you going to do in that regard? Are you guys going to call on your Cameroonian friends that are back over there to go out and vote their conscience? They're going to participate in the democracy. This is democracy right here. This is democracy. Putting out information. You have, as Cameroonians, we have a right to speak about our country. We have a right to make that country better, to improve living standards. Essentially, if this information gets out, Cameroonians are empowered. They're given power through information. They know what's going on. They want to hold the government accountable. That contributes to the democratic process back over there. And one of the things that the Africa Agenda, just in closing, that we have done as an organization, last year we printed more than 600 copies of the Cameroon Constitution, and we gave that, well, out of it, We give that to Cameroonian citizens here in the United States, in Aurora. Essentially, we give this out for free to anybody that was interested in information about Cameroon. This is printed in English and in French. And the reason why are we doing, I call it a Freedom and Information Project. That is what this is about. Essentially education. We have, under the Constitution of Cameroon, we have a right to print that information about our government, put it out there for people to know what is going on. The government there were amendments that were made to the Constitution on 14th April 2008. Essentially what we did was do the research, find out what those amendments were, and incorporate all of that into this document that we're distributing to Cameroonian citizens all over the world. And our intention is to print 100,000 copies of this and give it towards the 2011 presidential elections that are coming up. We plan to give out 100,000 copies of the Cameroonian Constitution in English and French to Cameroonian citizens all over the world. That's freedom of information. I have a government, I have a right to know what changes are being made to the Constitution at any time. You can put it out on the internet, you can distribute it, go to schools, and there are 36 questions right in the middle of this in English and French telling citizens of Cameroon and anybody that's interested in the country about how this document works, how the government of Cameroon functions. 36 questions that we put out. We did the research, put that information in here. If you want to learn about the 3 branches of the Cameroon government, all of that information is in this document. We're giving it out for free. It's freedom of information. It's essentially educational. It's not political, because when you start talking about the constitution of a country, what people all think about is that you're trying to take positions. You're either for the opposition or you're against the government. No, that's not what we're doing. This is information that people ought to know. And essentially, you guys are doing the same thing in a different format. You're putting out information about Cameroon. And I have a right to know what you guys are putting out.
Yeah.
That's part of a democratic process. My hope, and I'm being optimistic, is that the government of Cameroon creates more opportunities where we can find out what is going on in the country. Whether it's bad, if it's negative, so long. What journalists essentially do is hold governments accountable. Put out the information. Somebody's not going to like it, but somebody also would like it. There are people who like what we're doing, there are people who don't like what we're doing, but we have an obligation, a responsibility to do this. And we're not going to back down because we're being criticized for putting out information about the government. And tomorrow there's a new government in Cameroon. That doesn't mean we're going to stop printing this. We're not printing this because we want to do a favor to anybody in Cameroon. It's information. The Cameroonian citizens have a right to know what is going on. And I think people around the world have a right to know what is going on through this documentary that you guys are putting out. So I congratulate you guys for that, and I want to be part of that process.